Haven't started off on the best footing, at least, in the 2016 season, but we're going to start things off in Champ Select. OMG going to start on the blue side, HYG over on the red. And where are we going to go with the bans? We've seen quite a few champions get a lot of attention in the ban, but there's Alistar actually going to be the first one.
This is one of the bans that I didn't expect people to just outright throw onto the map in their first ban, but it's also a champion that has been involved in every single game.
Yeah,
results aside, Alistar has been involved in 100%, so still a good ban to take off the board.
Certainly been popular as Gangplank. He's been a very popular ban as well. Gets taken away by HYG. OMG respond pretty quickly there with Rise, so fairly aware of what threats they're trying to take away here.
Yeah, Rise is just such a good flex pick at the moment, coupled with Lissandra. Those two champions are just such a good first draft, along with even Lulu to an extent, because you don't know where they're going to go, and it doesn't actually show anything in a drafting phase. It's just a great champion.
Yep, and Misfortune Lulu going to be the next few bans, so HYG are going to have one left, but taking a pretty standard champions, I guess, other than stuff like Rise and Alistar, which stick out a little bit from OMG, maybe targeting out HYG's players just a bit more.
Yeah, of course, keeping in mind, Mundo, Tamkench, Poppy, all still well and truly.
There's just so many good champions.
I know. And this is the interesting part about drafting in 5.24. There are so many good champions. You don't actually really want to ban away the strongest ones. You want to ban away the strongest ones that your opponents can play. And that's the real difference here by the Alistar ban and by the Lulu ban.
Well, Trundle will be the last ban here, so we'll see what OMG want to take for pick number one. But talked about focus on some of these top-tier picks. HYG could potentially get two here, given that the bans have once again left the draft relatively far open. But hovering Lissandra right now, a champion that's just seemed so good in pretty much every game we've seen her in so far.
Yeah, and as mentioned, you know, the Rise, Lulu, Lissandra, three of the very good flex champions that can be played middle lane and top lane. So it opens up a lot of possibilities. Cool has played it in his last two games. To not exactly to a great degree of success, but he has shown he's capable of playing the Lissandra. So
when we just had EasyHoon play it in the last series, he looked absolutely crazy in Game 2 there for Vici. So certainly a champion that's shown a lot of strength, but we'll give LMG about 10 more seconds. They can decide if they do want it, or if they go for something very different, they will. They'll actually prioritize the support here after banning one, but Thresh is the first pick, going to go to 5 there.
And there's also been a lot of Thresh priority in the LPL so far, which is very intriguing. I don't see the merit in actually going for the Thresh above all else. They have banned away Trundle and Alistar. I would say Thresh pretty close to the third best support, but I mean, realistically, there's just so many other things on the board right now. I don't really agree with the Thresh.
I mean, I agree that Five was playing it well, but that is a very high place to pick that champion. So we'll see what HYG respond with. They have a whole host of options open now, given that Thresh was the first pick there for OMG. See the hovers right now, considering Graves, been a popular jungler, I think you said was involved in some way in every LPL game, either on the bench, in the ban list, or on the Rift.
Yeah, exactly right. So definitely one of these two champions should be locked in here for HYG. Rek'Sai has been played a fair amount also, whether, as Spawn mentioned earlier, quite a linear champion, does either very hit or very miss, as we saw with Condi, going 5-0 in one of his games.
And that's what they are going to pick up here, Lissandra and Rek'Sai are the next few champions here. So, like you mentioned, Rek'Sai, pretty solid, but kind of does not really any one thing well, has a somewhat linear playstyle. Let's see how March can navigate here. And maybe we just had Fishball go crazy aggressive. He is hovering Lee Sin right now. Not always the best thing into a Rek'Sai, but perfectly serviceable jungle champion. Again, it feels like Graves or Rek'Sai are the two junglers we've seen the most. So with Graves open, that could also be an option.
Yeah, exactly right. Graves should be a very good option for them here. Lee Sin hasn't been known as the best pick into a Rek'Sai, because you can basically unburrow and stop the resonating strike damage, so it's actually a lot of your damage that goes to waste.
Oh, I forgot that this was open. Kindred open for one of the first times, I think, in the week, which is, of course, another consideration here for Fishball, but maybe going to gloss over it here as well. I think this might be the first time she's been let through.
No, there was a played game earlier yesterday, and so there was at least more than one.
Well,
actually not even banned the rest of day one as well.
Not going to get picked this time. Is Lee Sin instead? Lee Sin Hecarim, actually, the two picks there. So you have to think that's Dark's champion in the top lane. Has a slight amount of flexibility, but Dark going to stick to... I feel like he played one take and one carry. Now he's kind of playing something in the middle. Yeah,
it's going to be a happy medium, you would have to say. And I honestly think that I like Hecarim in the top lane. And this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but Iceborne Gauntlet Hecarim is very good.
Gross.
Because you go Iceborne Gauntlet, and if you're against an armor-heavy team, you then just get the frozen heart. And then you're actually unkillable. Your slow radius is ridiculous. Problem with that, this meta, I would say doesn't really favor a Hecarim that builds like this because they're all magic damage.
Well, certainly with Lissandra on the lineup, could be problems there, but we'll see what HYG do want to pick up for themselves here for picks 3 and 4. Considering some 80 carries, got a Nautilus hover, interestingly enough. And not too long left now for HYG. Are these the picks you want? Looks like support 80 carries what they're thinking about with a potential solo lane counter pick with that Lissandra flex, but it is going to be Kalista Nautilus. Been a long time since we've seen this pair.
We have not seen a Nautilus in quite a while. That is a very interesting decision. They want that hard lockdown and hard CC that the Alistar generally would provide as well. Alistar being banned away from HYG, Nautilus is kind of the natural second choice in that regard because you cannot dodge the Nautilus ultimate.
Nope.
It will hunt you down.
It's pretty good against Kalista, actually. I've seen a fair amount of mobile 80 carries. SMLZ actually going to pick up Lucian, but Lux enters the fray for the first time in the year for the LPL.
Yeah, we've seen a sizable amount of Lux actually being played in the LCK as well as the counter pick per se towards the LeBlancs of the world, but you know, being a blind pick kind of raises some questions with where he's actually going with the Lux.
And of course, HYG have plenty of flexibility with their lanes because Lissandra is just such a great flex pick. But 30 seconds now left. That looks like Varus, which we have to think is a mid pick, which might indicate Lissandra top is where they want to put that. But I'll let them decide and actually finish these picks off. I think that they're pretty rapidly talking about this last pick here.
Yeah, Lissandra does quite well into the Hecarim anyway, and Varus actually like the 80 equivalent of a Lux.
Yep.
Just with a lower cooldown on the piercing arrows instead of having one big burst combo that a Lux does and having to wait 40 seconds. So I actually like the Varus pick into Lux in the middle lane. I think it alleviates a lot of pressure that Lux can then place onto your lane.
Yep, and that is going to be nope.
That works.
Tricked us. Ezreal, yep, kind of the other Varus, if you will.
Closer to Lux than Varus, I would say, if I had to make a guess. So they have locked in their finished team comp, and a bit of extra wave clear there from the middle lane, which is basically where they were going with that pick. That's what they were looking for. And a well-rounded team composition here for HYG.
Yeah, it looks like Ezreal mid. We've seen it a couple times actually this week, but it's been blue Ezreal every time we've seen Ezreal as well. Don't expect that to change here for Gosu. I do like the cool playing Lux though. If anyone remembers from last year, there was a pretty fun exhibition match we played. And cool, as a punishment for, I think, dying in one of the games, did have to wear a Lux cosplay. You guys can dig that one up on the internet if you like and start posting it, depending on how cool it does in this game. But if nothing else, that's fine. Let's run through the lineup. So Hecarim, Lee Sin, Lux, Lucian, and Thresh on one side, and Lissandra, Rek'Sai, Ezreal, Kalista, and Nautilus there for HYG.
Yeah, it's actually very good team comps across the board. You're looking at the side of OMG, and their engage is a little bit lacking. It involves mostly getting picks. If the Lux hits a binding or the Thresh hits a death sentence, that person is going to die. But if they fail to actually get that execution and get engaged on, then OMG are going to be the ones running away in trouble.
Well, we'll have to see if OMG can put this all together. Again, lots of eggs in Cool's basket, playing a champion like Lux, but exciting to see Cool mix it up a bit. He's really reaching into the back pockets for these champions.
He definitely is, yeah. Cool. Going to be a little bit crazy here with this Lux. We'll see how he does go.
Well, we certainly will. Let's not dilly-dally and get ourselves straight in the game. And here we are into Summoner's Rift for our first game of our next series here. OMG taking on HYG. We have a 5-man invade. Oh, 4-man, never mind. We left Dark behind. But OMG are going to get aggressively in as Dark and Rek'Sai are going to have a bit of a fight here. March doing a nice amount of damage with S17 also coming over. But just a lot of wards being placed. Looks like they might be scouting for lane swap vision.
I like that 17 actually did commit to the name 17 God as well. Because he chickened out when they actually had his official name. So good to see him sticking to his roots. It should be a sign of confidence, honestly, from this HYG side.
Well, have to think so. Well, it looks like all the excitement has stopped for now as OMG have done fanning out pace, placing down their wards. I wonder if there will be a swap, but looks like right now standard lanes being set up for both sides here. So everyone is going to reset, return to their respective lanes. And nothing too surprising as far as the early items go. Just Dark with that Ignite and Teleport. throwing back to the pretty standard Hecarim from last year.
Yeah, it definitely is. Hecarim has not changed one bit. If you do see him played, should be going for the Ignite and Teleport, or you miss out on a whole lot of kill threat.
And that's all good.
You get back here.
It's a bit of a pause. Seems like XQ may have some issues.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It's a fun way to start the day.
Yeah, not what we were looking for, you know?
Cool looking, very handsome though.
At least we all know why.
Yeah, it's true. We don't always get to know, but that one was nice and clear here. Other thing to note, I guess cool as heal in the mid lane as well. So pretty traditional poke mid lane and summon a spell, but that is versus the exhaust there for Gosu. So could run into problems if they have a duel. Only thing is, I don't think they'll be doing any fighting of each other.
No, but I think one thing to note is the level 2 of the Ezreal in the middle lane is still one of the strongest things that you'll ever have to face off against in the game. So the exhaust is something that we've now seen twice in a row as well, from Xiaohu and now from Gosu.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of utility behind having that exhaust. It's a defensive option if you're getting ganked. It's also got the basically double use of being offensive also.
Yep. Really good summon a spell. Helps you hit your skill shots. Kind of reminds me of Karthus in that way as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Karthus is aggressive, wants to use... He only has damaging spells and then a wall, which reduces resistances to be kind of offensive. You very rarely use it to get out because it's already down by the time you're being ganked. So by having exhaust and being able to live for as long as possible, you can put down as much damage as possible before you die. It's a very similar concept.
Yeah, and I guess, like you mentioned, Ezreal's a little closer to Lux than something like Varus. And I guess that's because Ezreal is, even though he has good poke, he's significantly shorter range than big poke champions like Varus because he does have to get down and dirty if he really wants to do damage.
Yeah, it's almost like a happy middle point between Varus and Lux, because Lux is like 10, 12 second cooldowns with high burst, whereas Varus is like a 3 second cooldown, but only one damage burst spell. Ezreal's got the Q all the time. God forbid he needs to use the ultimate with it.
Yeah.
And then he's got Thunderlords because he's also playing on 5.24, so a very strong champion to consider
It's
Ezreal.
just cool to see Ezreal come back. I mean, I loved when Def played it. He had a great game despite the loss there for EDG on the blue Ezreal, but feels like it might be a somewhat better slot for mid now as far as the pick goes. It is certainly a popular pick.
And I have to say a lot of that comes down to Thunderlords. It's
Yep.
just by the fact you've got extra burst in your kit. Ezreal's got this cheese factor to him now, where he can out-trade you at level 2, control the lane, and this is an Ezreal that has to go tier first for the most part, still being able to keep up with you because experience and getting the blue buff is what separates mid Ezreal from the rest. So being AD carry is good. It gets you through laning phase quite easily because you're babysat, but your damage is never going to be there. Your experience that you actually need is not going to be there. And you don't get the tier as quickly because you don't get blue.
Yep. So it's kind of looking down the team comps here as well. We mentioned a bit about Dark and his Hecarim and how OMG might have issues engaging at time to time. I feel like a lot of eggs are in the Hecarim basket when it comes to starting fights. If you can get onto these carries, that's great. But I don't know if you can get onto Kalista and Ezreal very reliably.
So, a lot of the emphasis is going to be on Hecarim getting a really good engage. The thing with that is it's also going to be getting an engage after everything else has been used. So they've got the Lux for pick, the Thresh to get pick as well, and then Lucian to consolidate it with the Lux burst to follow up any pick that they make. The Hecarim's engage is basically going to be after that, as like an afterthought to ensure that the team fight does occur. Mix and match, break people apart with the fear from the onslaught, and kind of cement a victory in a fight. It does come a lot down to how he executes that, but at the same time, up until QSSs are bought, you'll find a lot of trouble for these guys.
Well, they're going to pop back in the game now. Seems like everything's A-OK. And QG and Shu are going to start over on that Gromp. Actually finish it there as well. So they return to the lane with a bit of a lead. But you can see Assimila's already started CS. Do have another pause. Spoke too soon.
Yeah, unfortunate. And of course, starting the Gromp, Spawn mentioned it earlier. The minions don't hate each other anymore.
No.
They hate each other equally, I would have to say, for lack of a better description. There's no ganging up. There's no rivalries. They just hit each other fair and square.
Minion assured destruction.
Gentlemen's combat.
Good times. If only they had top hats. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
The first wave only gets top hats, though. Every wave afterwards is back to the barbaric selves that they are.
Just to remind you of the minion change. But yeah, you can see a lot less issues with waves doing silly things when they start things off. As we are watching a couple of the HYG players on the screen right now. Again, excited to see these guys play. Not too sure what to expect. Haven't seen them since last year, which was quite a while ago, back when the LSPL finished. And like we've mentioned, I think, earlier in the week, the track record of LSPL teams has been quite good. But I don't know if we're going to get another snake in QG. That's feels like a very rare thing.
It's a hard ask.
Yes.
That's for sure. Trying to find another Snake and QG from LSPL is almost like, where is this pool of talent coming from, honestly? EPA showed a lot of signs, a lot of promise in how they played the game, but they did go down. HYG lost to EPA, so even more questions need to be raised about these guys. There's still going to be a lot of potential there for them, though.
Yeah, that was one of the nice things about watching that series against World Elite is that I think we got surprised by both teams. World Elite, like, they made some smart moves, but they didn't pick up any superstar players, and all of a sudden they had quite a strong series to win it back 2-1. EPA taking a game does look good for them, but yeah, again, it's just a lot of the things with these new teams, especially at the top of the year, I feel like, when the season's just starting, when you're moving only through the first split, rather than that second one that everyone knows move towards Worlds. I think teams don't try harder necessarily in split number 2, but there's maybe a little more on the line. So top of the year, fresh talent, always hard to say what's going to happen.
Well, it goes without saying, everyone's goal is Worlds. MSI is great. Like, it's a big thing that people have been fighting towards last year, but it doesn't stand out to you as the premier kind of competition in comparison to Worlds. In fact, it does pale in comparison. I think they all want to fight for it, but the hunger is nowhere near as desperate as it is in the second split.
It's okay. China knows all about MSI being worthless.
Yeah, but we won it.
Undefeated at MSI, boys. China.
Oh, yeah. Look,
Speaking of
that.
EDG are playing later today. Hopefully it looks slightly improved from last time because they have not had a good start to their season. Going back through the draft here, though, I like Luck's pick. I'm excited. You mentioned we've seen it a little bit in Korea. Interested to see how Cool plays it. He's traditionally a very aggressive player. Luck's not a particularly aggressive champion, but Cool's got plenty of champions in his repertoire.
Yeah, so Lux honestly can be played two ways. There is the passive, I'm just trying to farm, get level 11 type of Lux by a cooldown reduction and just throw out lasers everywhere. Just pretend you're Vel'Koz for a little while. The other way that you can play Lux is not to wave clear, but to focus all of your spells onto killing your opponent or poking them down instead. Against an Ezreal, that's actually an option for Cool to take, and he is an aggressive player. There is a real chance that he might take that avenue and actually get some jungle pressure from his opponent, from his jungler, not his opponent, Fishbowl, and try and put the hurt down onto Gosu.
Yeah, actually, jungle is kind of an interesting place to go next. We've seen Elise and Rek'Sai, the two junglers from Fishbowl already. Lee Sin, much different, I think, to both of them. More on the Elise spectrum of things, obviously, but I think still the most aggressive jungle pick as far as current jungle picks go. And I think Fishbowl, if he wants to really get these lanes going, I mean, he's got a relatively stable bottom lane. He's probably not going to go there too often. But Hecarim and Lux feel like relatively farm-heavy lanes. So I think if he wants to make an impact early, pretty much all that weight rests on him.
Yeah, absolutely right. They've got aggression there. Like, they definitely have kill threat, but it's only genuine kill threat when they do have the pressure of the Lee Sin hitting that lane. The fact that Lee Sin can complement the damage so well. Thresher's got good, engage by having the Dark Passage there and the Flay threat. The most things that people get wrong, actually, with the Thresher is just trying to throw out the hook. Just run at them.
Yep.
And literally just flay them and throw out your lantern. They'll freak out. And you probably get summoners even if Lee Sin's not there.
And then they flashy hook them. Genius.
Exactly. Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought. And Dark, again, is obviously the other play here. I like this Fiora, as I said. He played the 1v1s really well in the top lane against Looper's Poppy, I believe. Was the matchup there? Yes, it was. I can check these things. Excellent. Amazing. It's almost like I take notes for a reason. But, again, Easy Hoon just kept ruining his day. It felt like if it wasn't Easy Hoon, it was one or two other members. The jungler was coming in. Dark just wants his top lane solo queue. 1v1 me, bro.
But that's also, it's a good strategy on the flip side from Vici playing against OMG, and it's something that HYG should actually take into account here. 17 is solo queue-esque, I'm going to say.
Yep.
But the real solo queue player is always going to be Dark. So if you can actually pick on the fact that solo queue players lane for longer on average, then you'll actually be able to take him down quite easily. Over-aggressive, push out of position. Their wards are always predictable. It's just the way that solo queue works. And if he hasn't adapted to the team environment yet, as effectively as the team may like of him, then there's a very real chance they can pick on him and do exactly what happened last time.
And I guess that's a thing we saw with OMG, with how they were playing a lot in their last series, is that they looked as a team very bloodthirsty. Like, if we can call maybe the negative of their team play being just a little scattered, then they were playing for kills constantly. It felt a lot like old school OMG, the difference being that they didn't execute on nearly the amount of kills they were trying to chase.
But that's pretty interesting to consider that, though, right? The identity of the team hasn't really changed that much.
I feel like it hasn't changed in 3 years.
Yeah, so the roster may change on and off all the time. Different players can come in, but OMG is going to be the exact same. And I think the best thing about that is they've got people from OND just joining the team, of course, the sister team of OMG. So the identity does remain reasonably similar. And that actually works in their favor by building a team through coaching stuff.
Yeah, it's all cool. He's the only one left, right? It has to be him. It wasn't Loveling all along.
No.
Bloodthirsty Cool. Playing Lux.
And this is why Cool seems so important, right?
I mean, like, he's, again, a very good player, but you could see, despite how exciting their roster was from last season, they just couldn't put it together. Uzi and Cool could not coexist on a team, it felt like. Going and Leveling was sort of burnt out as players, and now all of a sudden, you move Uzi, Going and Leveling out of your team, and you're kind of trying to shoehorn support in there in a team that's honestly always struggled to find a strong, consistent starting support. And this is what happens. Your team gets completely rebuilt with a mixture of solo queue players and B team. And Cool's sitting there being like, hopefully I can still play as well as I used to. Because he was the dominant mid laner up until maybe even like the beginning of last year in China.
Yeah, absolutely right. Cool has always been very good in middle lane, and I guess the biggest issue for Cool has always been the team that's been built around him. Uzi, as you mentioned, struggled to work with him, and the benefits to this team that they've got together now is 5 is a very good consistent support to have there. He's had champions banned away from it even in this game as something to consider. So he means business, 5. Hopefully they can coexist quite nicely and bring it together as a team. And the thing with OMG, though, is while we want them to coexist and grow together as a team, the keywords still grow.
Yep.
It's probably going to take them more than just this week, probably more than half of this split, to actually start to get it together, find their whole identity as a team, and start to win some serious maps.
Yeah, and that's definitely a thing. OMG's growth will be slow, so it'll be interesting to chart it week to week. Back to the match at hand, though. We do still have a pause, so thank you very much for waiting patiently. I am so curious about the ban strategy in this game. Why is the support getting so picked on, Rusty?
I mean, there could be the question of champion pool, if it's diverse or not. Firstly, we don't know how capable Amazing or 5 is of playing all of these different supports. Alistar has been picked in every single game, right? Trundle was the opposing ban to get rid of 2 of the supports, and Thresh was the natural last option, it feels like, for all of these guys. Poppy's definitely there. Trundle's massive support, but he got taken away. So, I mean, I'm surprised they went for priority Thresh. But in regards to the bans, it just felt like they were targeted because this is what they play.
Yep.
And the Alistar is a perfect example of it, because I would ban Poppy over that any day of the week.
I mean, there's actually no Poppy at all in this game, and she was left completely open. No top Poppy, no support Poppy. I mean, we did have HYG support go to Nautilus, so maybe there is some benefit in the strategy, because clearly maybe wanted Thresh. This happens a lot to Chinese players, I feel like. They just play Thresh for so long. It's like jungle mains that only play Lee Sin. They play Lee Sin all the time in solo queue, and it's a great time. Then you're like, hang on, I'm in the LPL now. Need to learn more than one champion. No, haven't done it yet. And just take some time.
Yeah.
Like for the longest time, there were only Annie players in the LPL. It seems like Thresh has taken over. The Lee Sin of support.
Annie's always stayed around those stages.
She'll be back. Oh, yeah. Wait, mid-split. She'll be killing people again from the bottom lane. Don't you worry.
They always
Make
play
her will
in
get
solo
mad.
queue. It's just the way it works, you know. Everyone's got their champion they fall back to, and it seems like everyone that plays competitively defaults to Lee Sin in the jungle, defaults to Vayne as AD carry, potentially Thresh or Annie as support, and top laners are always just something really, really silly and cheesy.
Top laners always have like their one pick. They're like, this is my champion. It's like, but it's, you could flip a coin or roll a big 141-sided dice. Something like that. There's a lot of champions in this game.
I actually don't know how many anymore.
I don't remember either.
They keep adding them.
I'll have to write that down for next time. Awkward times. Again, thank you still for waiting. Looking a little bit more at this draft, Rise. That's actually another pick that kind of stands out here. He has been seeing a lot of attention. Seen a couple plays looked good. I believe Easy Hoon really broke out the Rise here to start things off nice and well in the season. Interested to start seeing it sort of just being picked off every now and then in a ban phase. It's either you play it and they don't want to play against it, or everyone ignores it.
Yeah, and I'm surprised people genuinely ignore it. It's all began at Worlds when Faker was playing Rise. Everyone's like, well, hang on, how do you beat this? Trick question, you don't.
Yeah.
It's actually that good when you're good at Rise. And we did see it from Easy Hoon. We saw it again from V from Chao.
That was what I really loved.
Who went absolutely off on that champion and was beating a Mundo 1 versus 1 in the top lane. So that says a lot, considering it was Marin.
Yep.
I mean,
there's no small Mundo.
No, there was a massive Mundo. And I mean, all things considered, I think that Rise is still ridiculous and should be addressed every single time from at least a ban.
How much benefit do you think there is? Because watching V play Rise was like a light bulb moment where it's like, this is really good for QG. If they can flex such a powerful champion that has seen bans here and there, and that feels like players are still discovering the true power of, obviously Faker knew already, now everyone else is discovering Faker after he showed it off at Worlds. I feel like if you can play as a flex, we've seen how important flex picks are in drafts, just from this draft as well. So I feel like V being able to play it, and I assume Doinby can play it as well. On a team like QG, that's just so threatening, because now you have to ban another champion that 2 different people can play, and you're going to run out of bans for these top-tier champions.
Yeah, absolutely right. They're a side that can play multiple flex champions on multiple roles. So, I mean, all things considered, considering that they beat LGD as well in 2-0 convincingly, they've got so many flex, they're just beasts, and I would put them at favourites from week 1, game 1,
Yep.
potentially take the whole split.
Well, we'll have to see, but we are also going to have to delay this game until... Apologies, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to throw to a break, but as soon as the game is back, we'll be back with you. And welcome back, everyone. We do have the game coming back up. Quick apologies there. It did have a bug in the game. Needed to be remade, but of course, same picks and bans, so that will be all good. My name is Julian Post Time Car. Joining me is Zach Rusty Pie. As we get back into Champs League, through the lobby, and then onto the Rift. ASAP.
Exactly right. And from memory, of course, the picks and bans should all be the same.
They are.
So let's hope we haven't been talking about what they picked and why it's been so great to see a random Poppy actually show up on the
That would
Rift.
be very tricky.
Because
but-
that was one of the confusing things. No Poppy.
No, but as far as we know, it is going to be same picks and bans. I'm sure we'll find out relatively soon. Once we do see the players back into their lobby picking those champions. But yeah, it should be just a quick game remake due to a bug, but should be all good.
Yeah, absolutely right. And of course, both of these teams, team comps, while we're going on there,
Yep.
very strong. I would have to say no one's made any big blunders. That very similar to what LGD
Always-
did yesterday as an
always
example.
good.
Yeah. They made some Varus Rumble team comps that raised some serious questions.
Hey man, this whole end is like Varus and Rumble. Doesn't help you win games, unfortunately. Yeah, OGD. We'll have to see.
Look, I like AP Lucian as well. I'm not going to play
That's
it
true.
in the LPL.
What a time that would be. I don't know what's going to happen if you're ever casting an LPL game and someone picks AP Lucian.
I can tell you that if I'm not casting it, I'll find a way to be. I will run in here.
We'll be on the train. We already had mid-cocky in the LCK. You need to calm down.
That's fine. Step one.
Step
This is
one,
phase one of Rusty
mid-cocky.
Takeover, let's be honest.
Alright, good stuff, guys. With that, we're going to go back through the picks and get in the game. And we are back again out onto the rift for OMG versus HYG game number 1. Did have a quick remake, but back into the rift now. You can see OMG once again grouping up as 4 here, but they are being spotted by a very nicely placed ward from Hyper Youth Gaming.
Yeah, so of course the immediate response to this invade having been spotted is to go to the opposite side of the map. Dark is going to find SS17 God and March, but of course nothing he can do when he's by himself, and we'll see what OMG do in response here.
Yep, looking pretty familiar from the start of the last time we had this game, but no deep ward all the way back behind that, between the tier 2 and 3 on the top right-hand side for OMG. So didn't get the deep vision that they might have wanted, but are going to get a little bit of information into that jungle. Seems like bottom side start here for Fishbowl. He's going to have a bit of help with SMLZ and 5, and the grunt will be started again, but it is warded this time, so OMG will know this was up.
Almost deja vu.
Yep.
Almost, but not quite. One thing that did happen was actually quite nice from Gosu, was just putting down the Q and auto attack onto Cool. He took a lot of damage, to say the least, from that. So it is level 2 from Gosu. Very real, very possible, and we'll see if he wants to commit to it.
Well, we can see Cool and Gosu right now. Cool does have his Lucent Singularity skilled up, so getting a bit of that poke down, proccing that passive in the Thunderlord's Lux. Gets a little bit of burst out there. You can see 5 and SMLZ also keeping Callista Nautilus back as far as possible. Fairly aggressive lane, Thresh Lucian.
Yeah, and of course taking a lot of damage here, the AD carry, GXQ. But they should hit 2 first, being the trade-off for taking all of that damage. And hopefully they do their best to not die before taking that level over, as there it is.
Usually a bad time, but yep, have hit level 2 now, so can feel relatively safe there in the bottom lane. And topside, Dark actually taking a lot of damage. 17 going to move in, Thunderlords will proc, and he's getting zoned out completely off this
Zero
wave.
CS at the moment. Dark is having a horrendous time. Thankfully, the minions are pushing into him as we speak, and he should be able to pick up some of them. The problem there is, if 17 places a ward, knows he's not going to be ganked, then the harass can continue for free.
Yep, and you can see Lissandra getting an early edge there in that matchup. It's Fishbowl's mid lane now at level 3. Looking for the Q, does land it. Gosu shifts out though, and he'll be just fine. Doesn't have to use the summoner spells. Bottom lane, SMLZ in trouble as 5's going to flay them back here. Shu still chasing though, as we do have XQ also hopping his way down.
Oh, March is here.
Nice wraparound here from the Rex side, and that's trouble. Flash there for the snare from Nautilus. SMLZ gonna have to flash out. Great play there from 5. Flashes out as well, but he's now gonna get snared up. The damage is good, and first blood might be there. Heals used, but it does go to Nautilus. And SMLZ now in trouble. Huge hook lands on the other side, and a double kill in the bottom lane.
March actually still getting the knockout while 5 was trying to flash over the top of him. So it looked like he didn't get knocked up. Do not be fooled, that was just the animation not being shown. A very good gank here from the Rex side, this early in the game as well, and well, we're going to see it again. So basically, SMLZ will use his flash to get to safety, as there are a lot of very good flash stuns and hooks come out from the Nautilus support here, as he gets stunned against the wall, is going to go down, but not before they basically bait SMLZ in by getting their Nautilus so low. He hits the hook again, just outside of the turret range, and they walk it out casually.
Yeah, one apiece there. It's actually Fishbowl on the top side now, going in onto 17. He's going to have to hop his way out. Lissandra will be safe there with the Glacial Path. And these junglers are hyper-aggressive early on in this game.
It's great to see as well, of course. We've got Lee Sin against Rek'Sai, and if there's any champion that can be aggressive, it's going to be both of these guys. So straight off the bat, a gank in the bottom lane, some pressure placed in the middle and top lane by Fishbowl. The biggest difference is that HYG's jungler March has actually found kills.
Yes, does get a couple in the bottom lane there, as Nautilus and Callista have one each. Now going to get aggressive on the invade here. Shu's got a couple of wards set up, and March is going to take away these Raptors. So Fishbowl, who was looking for a gank top lane, is going to lose some of the bottom side of his jungle here. Does take his blue though, quite late there on that take, but he'll be just fine to move through the rest of his jungle. Unfortunately, he's starting to lose a bit of it as well.
He definitely is, and of course Shu's now on rotation with March one more time. They might have a flank here onto SMLZ.
Yeah, there aren't any more flashes. In fact, it's just the one summon. A huge hook there on the 5. Knockup's good as well. Hook does land onto Shu, and he is going to take a tower hit. And that does take a second as the damage is there, but it's not quite enough to kill Nautilus.
No, Nautilus, being 101, has the Sight Stone ready to go. So a bit of extra health saving grace right there for him. And HYG do get out unscathed, but it wasn't a very good trade for them, as Lee Sin freely gets to catch up in some farm, go back and recall, and he's in a comfortable position to catch up and find a gank for himself.
Yeah, some of the aggression sort of turned off here as Dark has managed to get the lane back into a decent spot here. 17's actually running fairly low on mana, so he's going to have to use the passive Iceborne just to really helped through those waves. And you can see Dark with that Corrupting Potion pretty much caught all the way back up. Did have to TP back into the top lane, does have some boots, but he's at least keeping even on CS for now.
Yeah, and of course, standard Hecarim style to go for those boots. He was so far behind at level 1 that he was naturally going to have to recall early. Very unfortunate that he can only get the boots without any resistance, and he's going to be forced to recall again now in response. And this is where the lead starts to break open here for Lissandra in the 1v1.
Yep, Dark did hit level 6, but 17 and level 5. Could have maybe got a kill if he had his ulti. Instead of just hold the wave there in the top lane, and Dark is going to have a long walk back with those Merc Treads up into the lane.
Yeah, absolutely is. Of course, the one thing that I was mentioning yesterday, Hecarim used to be so good because even if you're losing lane, you take damage, you force a trade, you come back with your home guard Merc Treads to not lose the lane. There's no home guards anymore.
Nope, gonna have to wait quite a while there for that home guard, so we'll speed up to the top side as a bottom lane now. 5 gonna look for a hook. That was quite close onto XQ, but SMLZ just keeping this wave here. Zoning out here is Ghost. He's actually gonna chuck an ulti down, breaking the wave back actually. Actually pushing it forward and just casually taking his lane of CS.
Just getting farm, I guess. I wonder what
Any way
his team's
he
asking.
can.
Yeah. In his fight in the middle lane, he's up a bit of farm now, granted, of course. The key difference between both mid laners is one's going for the Frost Queen's claim, the other one has to get the tier, and here's Rek'Sai.
Yeah, gank in the top lane. March went out under the turret, but Dark finds a very creative path straight down the river, and March's gank gets completely deflected there. Dark able to just hop away. Didn't need to use the ulti.
Big difference, of course. Takes a little while for the claw to hit, and it takes a very long time to travel, and Hecarim moves exceptionally fast, so he can just stomp his way out of there as fast as he can possibly go, and there shouldn't actually be any way to kill him. In saying that, he is so far behind, as we mentioned now, the CS gap is only growing from here.
Pressure from March has been really good early on, so you can see Hecarim is struggling a bit. 25 CS down so far. You can see Ghost also up as well, and also March up, so CS looking good across the board for Hyper Youth Gaming. It's just the bottom lane that's nice and even as March returns to the top lane and recalls. Doesn't want to go into the gank.
He's setting up the tunnel to ult too, I would have to imagine. So a little bit creative from him there. Sets himself up if he wants to use the ultimate at any time. He has a defensive one now in every single lane.
Yeah, really nice setup. And there's the ulti. Where is he going to go to? Straight to the farm as he moves back into the jungle. Does have his Barmy Cinder though, so Cinderhawk will be the choice here for March. Looks like Fishbowl, as expected, is going for the warrior with that longsword hanging out in the inventory. Have a quick check-in as well. Cool is going to be going for the Frost Queen's claim. No surprises there. And looks like the likely Blade of the Ruined King first there for XQ. So lots of standard stuff here in the early components.
Yeah, and one thing to note at the moment as well is how well Lucian and Thresh are doing in this bottom lane for OMG. If you want to consider they also both died early, they're ahead in farm. And now they've got Lee Sin here for some pressure. Hasn't been spotted yet.
That's a really nice ward from HYG, but Fishbowl clearly knows it's there because he's skirting just out on the edges of the darkness. But fortunately for him, it's kind of a long way into this lane for a lane gank, so not too sure how much he's willing to wait here.
He does also have the lantern, keep that in mind. If they find a hook, then he will be straight in the middle of that fight.
Well, let's see the wave. Kind of sitting in a decent spot, although SMLZ is starting to push it in a little more now. Looks like HYG's bottom lane will just play nice and carefully, and Fishbowl is going to back off towards his jungle.
Oh, they did not for the 10 gold on the Sentinel from Callista. That's rude. It almost sends a message.
Yeah, just let it hang out.
But it's free gold.
It is. So you can see Cool still farming up there. Pretty heavy farm lane there. SMLZ is actually going to use the ulti. Bit of poke and pushes the wave in. Seems like recall time for the bottom lane as they're going to get that first early shop in. March, though, up in the top lane, also continuing to farm up. Does have his ulti, so can get around the map relatively quickly where needed. Just happy to farm up at this point. Seems that we are moving into a slower portion as we approach the mid-game.
Yeah, that's the thing between both of these champions, both of these team comps as well. They're looking to get their first items before they actually start to scale. Hecarim, he's usually sufficient with just the boots, whereas Lissandra does need the Rod of Ages. Ezreal needs to get 2 items to really be online. Callista as well does need to have 2 completed items to be at maximum power. Lucian only really needs the Essence Reaver, but they're still waiting on that, as really the only completed items on the board is going to be Lux.
Yep, you can see Cool is going to get the blue buff here, but he does have the Frost Queen's claim already done. BF Sword, Caulfield's Hammer there for SMLZ, so is going to be moving towards the Essence Reaver. And Rod of Ages on the way there for S17. He's got a Catalyst and that blasting one already done. So we've seen lots of Frost Queen's claim into Rod of Ages. Looks like straight Rod of Ages this time for 17, as we're going to have a Scuttlecrab battle. Fishbowl is going to get it. Does miss the Q though. And going to get slapped by Harold the Rift Herald.
Harold has slapped him 4 times already. That guy is having a field day with Rek'Sai at the moment. Had to use a potion to get out of there. And actually, very poorly played from March with timing. The Smite and the E used at the same time and didn't kill the Rift Herald. So, unfortunate stuff here.
Yep.
Rift Herald, of course, Scuttle Crab.
Yep,
That's what I mean, yeah.
I had you. I
Yeah.
knew what you meant. Because you Fishbowl going to clear a ward out there. Just going to grab the 10 gold. Cool going to pop the ghosts. And they might look for a pick here. Cool does have access to his ultimate as well. So pretty nice item there with the Frost Queen Scam if he wants to pick somebody off. So Fishbowl just playing up and forward. And SMLZ in a bit of trouble there against XQ. Looks like his support's left his lane is why they're just playing back towards his tower for now.
But if they find themselves in the 1v1 at all, Kalista and Lucian, then you'll find SMLZ's aggression starts to skyrocket because it's quite easy to get a simple trade like that in.
Yep.
And then bide your time until you have it all up again with your ultimate.
Ooh, here comes Cool actually. Might be looking for a snipe down in the bottom lane. Blue buff also being done, but doesn't have vision and does pass through a ward. Is Cool going to throw the ulti out? No, he's not. Ghosty's going to get it. Actually, quite like the pink ward there.
So that
Double
pink ward was placed by Gosu very early in the laning phase to prevent any vision in that area. And it does seem to be the LPL special to prevent blue buffs being taken. Against Lux in particular, it's actually an even better ward than you would imagine. She doesn't know you're going there because she doesn't have vision and then can't blind steal the blue.
Yeah, we've seen it from Pawn actually. Pretty much every time he plays Ezreal, he'll just do it at the expected blue time and try and steal it. Probably works more often than not, so not a bad play. You can see Sheen up now for Gosu, so pretty quickly building in towards the Iceborne Gauntlet. Does have a tier as well, so going to have those 2 blue Ezreal items up relatively quickly.
Are they
here.
baiting this?
Maybe. March going to go in for it. Fishbowl does safeguard away on top of a ward. But Shu is here as well. I'm going to try and get some damage done to Cool, but he's got all his summoners up. Probably fairly safe here at this point in mid lane. We'll just have a 2v0 right now. Kalista has turned to leave bottom lane and move away from the duo of OMG.
Yeah, and opting towards the boots here. Berserker Greaves for Kalista above finishing an item just shows how they're playing the laning phase at the moment. Wants to hop around and try and avoid as much damage as possible while sparingly dealing her own. So they're not looking for the 2v2.
Just, yeah, as we do return to the top lane. Lots of farming happening. Lissandra still firmly ahead in CS, still about that 25 mark, but Fishbowl...
This could be a bait.
He's going to move his way up. Dark a little low. Does use the ulti. Claws out. That's not quite enough. Does get knocked out of it as well. Got 17. He's going to get knocked up. Fishbowl cues in with a nice style kick, and he's going to get the kill.
And very easy work here from OMG as Fishbowl just walked up the lane. Dark very obviously communicated to him saying he doesn't know I'm in this bush. He's starting to push the lane around. Let's just kill him. And that's exactly how it went.
Well, Hype Youth Gaming do respond with the Dragon, but SMLZ is going to look in for March. Does pop the ulti. No, not just yet. But could try and cull down the Rek'Sai. Does get in for it. Kalista will get the Dragon. Cool. Looks for the ulti, but March does flash out of the way.
And good work from HYG in response. They find themselves the Dragon and nobody goes down except the Lissandra, which is exactly why they went for the Dragon in the first place. So they get a trade. Probably not a favorable trade, but it is still the first Dragon, which is very relevant throughout the rest of the game from here on out.
Yeah, better than nothing there as HYG effectively trade objectives. Ooh, Gosu does eat a binding, but Cool with no ulti does not follow up on the poke. Seems like shop time for the mid laners. As Cool is looking to go back. Gosu getting a bit greedy, going to stay for another wave. As March has been spotted, does pop a ward over the back of that Dragon Pit. Going to tunnel his way towards mid. Does spot Fishbowl, actually. He's clearing a ward out, and Cool has stayed, so we could have a 2v2 here. March does get tagged, but he should be able to move safely back into his own jungle.
Cool was actually forced to stay from Gosu, trying to hunt him down and hit him with an Essence Flux. So is forced to stay, and this is where you'd say it favors Gosu. By keeping Cool around, there is no massive item spike. For the Lux, the burst is a lot less. And really, the Ezreal's just stacking the tier. So the more he can be a pest and keep him around, the better off he is.
Yep,
you can see he's trying real hard.
Yep, doesn't want to go. Oh, Cool actually cancels it again. Levels 11 for both these mid laners. Some Flux is going to go out there.
And this is good again.
True shot, Roach.
By using the ultimate, you actually keep the Lux at the turret for at least another wave, because he has to stay and get the wave.
I mean, now Cool's going to use his ulti on the wave, so they're just trading big ultimates here back and forth. Again, do have the upgrade there at level 11. Not too hard to move these waves down. Oh, very nice from Cool, moving the minions back there to take them out under the tower. But Fishbowl is back in the top lane as well. Dark might be going for second round here on the gank.
Yeah, the Hecarim ultimate available again. He just uses it immediately before you use the E to gain some move speed on Hecarim. The reason you would do this is to stop the claw coming out from Lissandra to stop the engage from being successful. Dark's got Fishbowl. There is still a Rek'Sai sitting here in the top lane for the Lissandra to back him up, but they don't commit.
Yep, all junglers back away. Had both of them there in the top lane, but just going to be a recall instead. 17 has finished his Rod of Ages. Does have Distortion Enchanted cooldown boots nice and quickly here as Cool picks up a blue buff.
That really says a lot about the pace of the game that Hyper Youth Gaming are looking to put in place. They've got the Lucidity and Teleport and Flash cooldowns have been reduced by the Distortion as a hook connects.
Nice hook there actually onto Shu. Force Flash there from 5 as SMLZ just pops the culling and dashes his way back. Lots of damage actually done on the return. So a one trade there for the OMG duo, but looked a little scary there.
Almost feeling desperate, to be honest, from HYG's bottom lane as they felt like they had to try and engage. It was a good hook, but following up with the ultimate on the Thresh of all people, especially when there was a culling coming out from Lucian, does raise some questions.
And look at that CS lead that's starting to grow there as well. The Essence Reaver is done. March is now forced to come down to the bottom lane and try and investigate things here. But we talked about the top lane difference before. It's 20 currently for 17 versus Dark. It's about 20-25 here for SMLZ as well. So you can see kind of two different leads for either side growing on opposite sides of the map.
Yeah, and we're getting closer to the item spikes that we had mentioned earlier. Of course, Essence Reaver, as you mentioned, we're almost at a full item here for the Hecarim as well. Getting towards a big power spike. Lissandra, we've seen the Lucidity boots working towards the Teleport ganks, and I'm getting the vibes that a mid-game skirmish is going to break out, probably around a Dragon or even the Rift Herald.
Yeah, quite possibly here. Herald will be up for a few minutes longer. And it seems like Dark is going fairly aggressive with the first few item choices as well. Glacial Shard, Sheen, and Caulfield's Hammer. So it could be the Iceborne Gauntlet Hecarim that you mentioned.
It could be. I didn't want to really say anything until he did it because I don't rate it against this particular team comp. In fact, I wouldn't advise it. I would have to say he's going for something a little bit less than that. Look, it's good. As the producer's trying to tell me I'm changing my mind. I think it's good, just not in this game.
Well, knockback there actually. Dark maybe even going to get aggressive. Does have the Ignite. Don't forget, great ult there from 17, but is forced to use it to get away safely.
Yeah, so that was actually quite nice from him to ensure his escape, but doesn't have the ultimate available now, 17, as he's going to have to come back to lane and kind of just deal with Dark on this Hecarim, who's rampaging now.
Lane getting a little out of hand, actually. March is up here clearing out pink wards. Dark says, no thank you. That's already too late. Rek'Sai has collected them, and Gosu was up near there as well. Has recalled now. Got that Iceborne Gauntlet actually finished. And Cool's also got a needlessly large rod, so moving into his second major item. Could be anything really. I'm going to guess Deathcap, but we'll see what Cool wants to pick up. Could be Luden's as well.
I would have to say it's going to be a Luden's Echo. It could be the Zonia's as well, if
Yep.
God forbid he's scared about the damage of his opposition team. They do have pretty good engage, so Zonia's wouldn't be too bad. If it's not a Luden's, though, I'd be very surprised.
I don't know why 3 of them are here, but HYG starting to camp the top tri-bush there. Do have a pink ward in it. 5's going to go investigate now. Hopefully doesn't get himself killed.
No.
Needs to check safely. Glacial Path moves in. Flash there for the snare. 5 in trouble there as he gets knocked all the way around by Nautilus as well.
Hecarim's
Dark
in.
around the side there, goes in for a massive play. 5 does fall there to S17. Now March trying to run away as Dark does crush him down, but 3v1.
Fishball's
Great
in.
ulti there as well. And now there's the knock-up through. SMLZ is going to die. That's a double kill there for Kalista. Shu in trouble as Fishball just going all around the place. Does pick up the first kill, but Gosu is going to chase in. He'll pop there by Cool. He's going to have to kite back as he safeguards away to the Lux. Binding does land, but it only hits one. Glacial Path will connect. Ezreal gonna look
he's
for the
got
next
auto.
kill
There it
as
is.
well. And Cool does move in. The Iceborne Gauntlet procs.
no.
It doesn't proc a second time, but that's what he's going to proc in. A great Arcane Shift might keep this going. Cool just can't really get out of this. He's trying to chase the skill shots in. Great flash out of the spear, and Cool barely lives.
Very good work from Cool to get out, saving the flash for as long as possible as we're going to see this fight again. 5? No, we're not.
Nope.
We're going to watch Cool
Wow.
kill Cool.
He actually popped in with the ulti there. I think Cool must have backed in a bit of a silly spot and does get himself killed there. 5 now just going to clean out whatever he can. But 7-3 now in kills for HYG. Not much of a gold lead, but action-packed after that first little bit of farming.
And that last fight was honestly just mayhem. It was skirmishes across the board, people coming in at different times. HYG started with the most people in the fight, but then eventually the cavalry arrived. Teleports from Dark on the Hecarim. And all in all, it does start to favor HYG. They started with the most numbers, they finished with the most numbers.
Feels like you can see the power of Blue Ezreal in this long team fights. That one went all the way from top to mid lane tower, by the way. So Gosu chased a long way there, but now he's got his 2 items completed with the Muramana transformed as well. He is quite strong at this stage of the game.
Oh, so we're going to see the snipe this time.
He's on top of a ward.
Yeah, what the hell?
Oh, poor Cool. Tried to move out of the way and got clipped.
He was told, he knew. Oh my god, we're fighting
Yeah,
again.
Dark in trouble again. That's a kill onto Shu, though, as Fishball kicks him in the face. XG going to try and chase him, but that's a nice little collection from Lee Sin.
It was almost one of those Lee Sin kicks where you think you're kicking them back towards your turret and he just dies. And oh, well, okay. and gets out with the ward. Of course, HYG still have the pressure in this bottom lane as, all things considered, Fishbowl doesn't have the ultimate left.
Can't defend here. You can see 17 just trying to clear what he can. Does get the wave done. Lysandra wave clear quite good. But bottom lane tower does fall. It's the first one of the game for HYG. We're going to see if we can get some more turrets taken out here. OMG are going to work on the top one. Looks like S17's backed off a bit. But should be okay to keep it alive, at least for now.
Yeah, I think looking at these team comps right now, it's almost dangerous to consider OMG's team comp in the mid game. They've got the Lux Burst, the Hecarim, who can actually destroy people. He did go for Iceborne Gauntlet. I don't want to say I'm the prophet of that one, because I don't know if I like it in this particular game. It's like a cost-efficient Trinity Force, essentially, but it's also an armor-exclusive option because it scales with size, with armor.
Yeah, well, I kind of know what's coming next, actually, because we have a Caulfield timeout and a serrated Dirk in the inventory.
Looks like
Memory serves, that's only Ghostplate components. So we'll see what Dark wants to do with the next few items, but it's going for fairly aggressive Hecarim, carry Hecarim items, I guess.
Look, that is the most aggressive Hecarim to ever grace this planet. He's getting cooldown reduction, he's getting armor penetration. He probably can comfortably split push, which is the biggest added benefit of this, especially looking at the Lysandra's build, who has gone for magic resistance against what's going to be a physical heavy Hecarim.
Very physical there. Let's go sub pops, looking for March. Do find him. Fishbowl going to hop over and clear that pin cord out. You can see OMG are really intent on taking out this top outer turret, but Lysandra is not giving it away for free. In fact, we've moved the dual lane up here as well. God right now is busy split pushing the bottom side as Lysandra does have that TP up as well and the distortion boot, so he's ready to join it pretty much any time.
Yeah, this is the power spike of the Hecarim in the bottom lane from OMG.
Oh, wow.
Oh, hello.
Late ulti there for cool, but just wanted the poke damage. Does have blue buff, so lots of cooldown reduction. Did go for the Ludens as well, so plenty of damage on for this Lux now as well.
Yeah, the scary part will be when the death cap comes next for Cool. Only scaling from here on out. His burst is through the roof. These teams just, they know what they want to do. OMG wanted to fight. They wanted to get that top lane turret. They've suddenly realized that they can't do it, and in fact, they're getting their own threatened.
Yeah, there's like 8 people in top lane right now. As 17 actually rotates mid, ulti out from Ezreal. Doesn't get cool this time, but he had plenty of health left just in case. And now it's Hecarim's turn to actually split push the bottom side. Duck's TP on the way up, but not quite there yet. And it feels like HYG a little bit scattered right now. We saw this a bit from OMG when they were playing earlier in the week, but didn't quite know what to do when they were behind. HYG aren't behind. They're actually ahead on goal by about 400-500, but it feels like they don't quite know what they want to do next.
It's a battle of back and forth at the moment. They're looking for someone to make a mistake. This could be one of them.
Does have flash, uses it onto Cool. Does have his summoners up though, does pop the heal, but gets snared up again. Now Fishbowl's going to try and save him. Goes to in there as well. They have to kick him out, and they do. But 17 can maybe chase in March now. Also on the offensive is the rest of OMG group up together. Hook does land onto March, but it's just a bit of trade damage. SMLZ starting to turn it up with those 2 items.
Yeah, they're definitely turning up the pressure. Good work from this Lysandra, though, from 17 to find his way in, get the engage onto Cool. Cool uses his defensive summoner, but doesn't burn the flash at all. So very reserved with his flash usage on this Lux, as it is so important on a low mobility champion.
He just has to not tie to True Shot Barrage again. Cool, I think going to recall. Yep, nice and deep between the towers there. March still working on the blue buff. Ghost are going to go ahead and collect that for himself. So it doesn't have time to ulti Cool at this point. SMLZ still on that top side. Does have rapid fire cannon completed already. You can see QG actually not too bad on the item front either. Ruin's Hurricane on the way. QSS done. And of course has that completed Blade of the Ruin King.
Yeah, they've got their items. One thing that I was about to point out as well while we're talking about items is the Aegis is there. So they've got a lot of magic resistance across the board. 2 QSSs, the Abyssal Scepter, and that Aegis to boot. Lux has changed the item build to go for a Void Staff. So what are OMG going to do? Not fight until they have the Void Staff.
Well,
and then pick it.
Yep, Cool's going to have to keep farming. In fact, both mid laners farming up storms this game. 245 CS apiece pretty much at under 25 minutes. So doing exceptionally well here. But again, Ezreal with the Iceborne, pretty good at wave clear. Luden's Echo Lux, pretty good at wave clear. So could be a while before Cool's going to seed that mid lane turret. He's holding onto it pretty tightly.
Yeah, it's a big wave clear off in the middle lane.
Lovely.
Oh, yeah. It's great. Spectator sport, isn't it?
Just wait until Zig's interview comes back, and then we'll have the real wave clear wars.
That's the real meta, isn't it?
Please no. Ghostblade is done for Dark, by the way. So he's ready to get offensive down in the bottom lane. Got a Ruby Crystal up as well, so maybe building something more defensive.
I just love that the camera keeps focusing on the wave clear. Like, this is the point of action.
I mean, they're not wrong at this point in the game. Fishballs has got his 10-man's plate as well as he takes up the red buff. Dragon back in 14 minutes. HYG did get a second one as well, I believe, in one of the replays. So they are 2-0 up in Dragons. Have an objective to focus on there, and they're going to get a top lane turret as well. Maybe SMLZ is going to try and turn it. March around the backside, though, as the box is popped there by 5. Hook not going to land, though. Dark is ready. He's going to charge in. Oh, my God, the damage is good. And now he has to use everything else to move away. Rodler still in trouble. Ulti doesn't quite reach, so he's still going to get kited. Dark just can't finish him off. He does get a kill there onto Shu, but he needs to keep moving in. S17 going to move in and make sure Hecarim goes down. A 1-for-1 trade in top lane.
That Hecarim does so much damage. Dark puts down the hurt. He does only get the Nautilus support in response for his own life, so not a great trade. But he really did send a message with that one. I think we all received it. It's that this Hecarim hurts, because watch this. What is that? That is obnoxious. Unfortunately, the ultimate does miss from Dark, doesn't hit the target he's looking for. Another good hook from Shu on this Nautilus does ensure that he goes down, so good work here from HYG.
Yeah, 17 a little late to use the ulti to stop the trade from happening, but does secure the kill instead. Cool actually in trouble as Ghosty gets that Thunderlord to proc in. You can see a blue buff as you're giving him a bit of a lead there. As Cool does have the Void Star finished up, so if he wants to start getting aggressive, they can. But these mid laners are getting pretty stacked on items. Last Whisper already done for Ezreal as well. Of course, it's nice and cheap now.
Yeah, 1,300 gold for a Last Whisper now makes that a lot easier, whereas in response, the Void Staff is indeed ready to go from Cool. So team fights, I was hoping they would aim for it around this dragon, is not going to be available for them. And really, OMG just need to work around forcing HYG to go somewhere on the map.
Yeah, not in position at this point. So are going to have to challenge for the fourth, you have to think. 3 dragons is not a bad number. Obviously, the first one's the most important one, but still does get scary when a team takes a 4th dragon. We saw Vici were able to deny... actually, it might have been the other side, but... No, Royal were able to deny it and keep Vici off Dragon 4 for a while.
Yeah.
So OMG are really looking to this next one to deny that.
They absolutely are, of course. Control of the dragon is not that important at the moment. A Shu's been kicked in, actually. Whoa.
Binding there as well. Ulti out from Lux. That's a lot of damage, and you are dead, sir. Dark going to collect that one.
Dark definitely thinks he's helping by coming in, making sure that he gets the kill. I don't know if I agree with that one, as I think it would have been better suited towards the Lux. Hecarim, working towards some magic resistance finally this time, does open up his capabilities for split pushing against the Lissandra.
Yep, got that Spectre's Cal ready, so he's still bottom lane actually. Looks like S17 might be avoiding him for the time being.
Yeah.
And SMLZ is still in the top lane pushing things up. He does not have that tower anymore, but the outer tower is still up for HYG. So again, these towers in different lanes are really just hanging on by a couple hundred HP. Cool still is his mid tower in the mid tower there, as you can see, and he'll be holding on to that one for a while.
Well, if there's one thing both of these team comps have, it's wave clear. They don't have any shortage of that. So basically when it comes to taking a turret, you're looking at either diving for the turret, grouping as 5 for the turret and controlling the minions, or getting Baron. Now it's something they haven't looked at just yet. They're only really controlling areas around the Baron because outer turrets still remain. Very easy to rotate from an outer turret to the Baron. Takes you 5 to 10 seconds. So it's not easy for them to do. But if a team were to get the Baron, nothing you can do to defend a siege.
No, I mean, you can see a little bit of vision there for HYG around the area, but you're right, it's just a little too tricky with the map. Still being quite small around the center to contest for such a big objective. We're getting quite late into this game, though. 30 minutes almost have elapsed as we just tick by minute 21. Gosu going to get himself another blue buff here, and it just feels like we're building up to one big team fight, Rusty.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Base True Time.
Okay.
But nothing builds out of Spectre's Cowl and...
Unless it's more of Marmortius and Jerome's Fist.
Nope.
Look, we'll find out together just exactly where Dark's going with his item build.
It has to be Asterix Gauge, right?
I assume so.
But, oh, man.
He only did a little bit of magic
You
with
do
his
you,
Rusty.
Dark.
He
You do
is.
you.
He absolutely is.
I appreciate you.
You guys took... He's like the opposite of
loyal.
Long's Hecarim, which is all...
Oh my God, here we
damage
go.
here in the bottom side. Nautilus, though, is coming Dark going to have to juke out of the way. He does have his ultimate. Might go back in for it. Charging up the movement speed, but gets ulted up by Nautilus. Dark might have to ulti to safety now. No, goes straight back in for it. Looks for the kill. Fishbowl moves in with a safeguard, and that's almost enough to keep him alive. It is just for a bit longer. Barely lives as Cool's down here now as well. And there's a flash in. Misses the binding, though. And Nautilus now going to snare him up. March gets in for the knockoff, and that's Cool dead as Fishbowl caught in the middle of the team. HYG collapse, and Callista gets a double.
That was a big mistake, and you should not be making those mistakes if you're Lux. Flashing forward, even has the ultimate available, and just blatantly misses the Q. From there, dead.
And now a pause. As Cool can think about the decisions he's made in this game, and maybe put the Lux cosplay from last year back on.
Feigning PC issues to cause him to think about oneself.
I lagged. We'll see, Cool. We'll see. Yeah, I assume he just didn't want Callista to hop out of the ulti and guess wrong. But I think it's probably best just to throw it and get the 50-50 rather than flash for the light binding, which he unfortunately missed.
It's much safer of a bet to throw out the ultimate and hope it hits. Flashing forwards, missing the Q, and of course, credit where it's due. The Callista dodged that very nicely. Actually worked around the outskirts of the fight quite well to even get the Hecarim as low as he did in the first place. So a lot of positives to take away from that if you're HYG. Just questions, really, to be asked across the board here for OMG.
And again, we talk about OMG being this bloodthirsty team. There was a lot of bloodthirst by both Dark and Cool in different situations. Dark and Fishbowl did a great job almost outplaying onto that turret and getting themselves a kill on the Callista. But Cool, they all collapsed together. That's a trademark OMG thing, but they just couldn't quite finish off the kills, and HYG responded perfectly. Everyone came down to that lane, and they got 2 clean kills for that Callista. And at this point, given that there's 2 dead now, and they're all down the bottom towards the tier 2, we're going to start pushing in towards that bottom inhibitor turret as well.
I mean, OMG were in a point of power prior to that actually happening. They looked like they were the ones in the driver's seat about to try and dictate the next part of the fight. They actually wanted to fight. And it was a mistake, really, for Dark to get caught as he did. He got out-traded in a 1-versus-1 against a Callista, which is the one thing you don't expect to happen because he has the Frozen Fist and because he's against an AD carry that, while mobile, you can slow down and actually stick to very well as a Hecarim. Made a big mistake. A team fight actually comes out from it. And credit where it's due to Fishbowl again from OMG. He's playing this game quite well. He's a very good Lee Sin player if there's anything you can take from this. Not going to be enough to save the rest of his team as they throw themselves willingly at death.
Yep. Cool slash there. Just a bit, I mean, I can see what he wanted. I can really see it, but didn't quite nail the ending there. Unfortunately, did get himself killed. So, unlucky situation. Unfortunate, I should say, actually, there for OMG. Are going to be 2 down here once we do resume back from this pause. Seems like one of the HYG players has an issue to resolve, but I'm sure it won't be too long. Welcome back. And it's been a fun game, honestly. I didn't expect it to be quite so action-packed, but we had maybe that lull at 10 minutes for about 5 minutes or so while everyone farmed up for their items, but junglers have been nice and aggressive. Everyone's been moving around the map, looking for those kills. Seems like HYG and current OMG actually play fairly similarly.
Yeah, they really do, honestly. I think the biggest stylistic difference doesn't even come from the junglers. It's just what the top laners are playing. It's the way that they've both been playing the top lane. One's built to win the lane and then has realized that I'm not going to build to win the lane anymore. I'm just going to build to beat AD carries or something with my Jauram's Fist Hecarim. It's a unique life choice. I have to go with that one. You do you, man. On the flip side, of course, Lissandra has been building for team fights, has gone for distortion boots on boots of lucidity for the teleport ganks, for the constant ultimate use, and has actually rotated around the map. There was a flash attempted kill on Cool in the middle lane, so different styles, and they're starting to really come into fruition now in this game. So across the board, besides maybe the top lane, these two play very similar.
Yeah, and I feel like we've seen both teams try and split push at different points. Hecarim obviously is on split push duty all the time, it feels like. And 17's done a good job of dodging his lane and actually applying pressure in a different way, which is why I've seen the AD carries in such weird spots. I feel like every time both top laners go to split push, though, the team's like, nah, not having this, and just collapse for a team fight, which is why we've seen so much action in the mid game.
Yeah, definitely. And it's around the time where you have to think about how the players think as well. As they've got magic resistance. Well, I need to get a Void Staff, right? I'm Lux. And the second I get that Void Staff, I'm thinking to myself, well, I can kill everyone now.
Yep.
I have my magic penetration that I need. Let's fight. Let's just go kill them. And they tried that. It didn't exactly work for them because the opposition team of HYG was thinking the exact same thing. Hecarim gets aggressive, and the immediate response from XQ was like, well, I can kill this guy. I've got my items.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of this, I guess, in a lot of these fights. We've seen, honestly, more skirmishes than straight-up team fights, but it's pretty obvious which threats are trying to get in. I mean, Cool's probably not going to flash quite so aggressively again, but he was trying to get in and do damage. And Duck has been very aggressive on the Hecarim as the primary initiator for this team. I just feel like looking down HYG's lineup, there's just too much CC. I don't think Hecarim can Mercury tread through all of this CC.
Definitely can't. The thing with the Hecarim, though, is he's only really supposed to be dealing with the Nautilus and the Kalista in the backline. He already can't Merc trades through all of that. They're knockups. That's the biggest thing here. So this Hecarim could do a lot of damage if he times his engage well, and that's very reliant on the rest of his team setting him up for that. Otherwise, it could go to failure very quickly.
Certainly could, as I believe we are going to hop back in relatively shortly. Play seem to resolve their issue, and there's HYG. They are going to move away from the Tier 2 after they did take it out. So 3-2 up in turrets now for Hyper Gaming, and starting to grow a bit more of a gold lead. 2,500 gold at this point in the game.
Yeah, not a massive gold lead, but something you will note is these smaller gold differences are starting to snowball the game a lot earlier and a lot quicker in the current meta.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost is playing nicely as well on that Ezreal. Can see maybe even a ban we might start seeing as the weeks roll on. It's been quite a popular mid pick this particular week. Another tower is going to fall as well. That's 4-2 now in that particular metric, and HYG buffering that gold lead. Ooh, very nice QSS from Gosu.
An immediate QSS has to be used. Of course, not having that available hurts him a lot against the team comp that has been built from OMG, so we'll most likely see defensive and passive play from him for a little bit until that's available again. As speaking of QSSs, that's just been upgraded on Kalista.
Yep, Mercurial Scimitar now completed for XQ. Does actually have a fourth item on the way as well with that pickaxe in the inventory. So might be. I thought I saw it last week, but no, that's Ezreal's. Never mind.
Yeah.
There's one for Gosu there as well. So pretty similar looking build so far. And you can sort of see where this dual AD carry approach comes from. Kalista good at cleaning up and kiting away as March and Dark have found each other fighting over the blue buff at this point. Smite does go down though, but Shu's now going to cut off the Hecarim. Lantern's there, does take it, and he'll be just fine.
Lanterns are so sporadic in whether you think you're blocking them or not, because the Nautilus is a very big character model and does not block the Lantern. So gets out to safety there, Dark. Thankfully, the Dark Passage was there. There you go, Dark Passage.
Nailed it.
Almost intentional.
Double blue trinket in that brush there as well. HYG continuing their assault now in the top lane, looking to really knock down these tier 2 turrets. They're ignoring mid for the most part, mainly because Cool's been there with the wave clear, but he's wise to this. He's now top lane himself, making sure that the rest of his team's there to wave clear away. So Hyper Gaming starting to gain ground, but maybe not as quickly as they would like, as it's been very scrappy for the last 20 minutes or so of this game.
It definitely has been. It's all just going to come down to that one team fight and one engage, you have to say, honestly. They're biding their time so well, waiting for their items. Well, they've got their items. Now they're just looking to control vision, control the map. And the biggest thing to consider is the Dragon for HYG and the Baron for both teams, as in 15 seconds we'll see if HYG really want it.
Yeah, Cool actually did finally lose that mid turret, of course, as well, but Gosu still has his, so OMG struggling to really move out over the half of the, I guess, their half of the map at this point, but Dragon up again. Right now, you can see OMG are pretty much forced into fight for this one because they don't want to have to fight for Dragon 5 every single time the time is up, but Rift Scuttle is going to go to Hyper Youth Gaming.
They're not positioning to fight it, though. They're positioning to steal it. There's no reason to be on the backside of the Dragon Pit unless you are looking to only steal. And there's also no reason for HYD to commit to this unless they're confident in doing so and have vision of where OMG are.
Well, they've started putting spears into it. Leasing goes in for it, but it's going to get hooked out instead. Fishball can't quite get out. Does hit the Lissandra ulti, and XQ is going to finish him off.
So they find the pick. They also get the Dragon. Number 4 secured for them. And they can go straight to the Baron area now. Try and control vision around that. And it should be easy for them to force OMG into a spot without vision.
And we've talked a lot this season early on just how Dragon doesn't feel as impactful as it used to. But 5 Dragon's still very good. And HYG have managed to get 4 quite quickly.
It definitely is. Of course, Dragon number 1 still going to be relevant. Still going to be good. The only other Dragon after that you actually value quite highly is number 4. And that's only because it's one before number 5. And number 5 is game-changing.
Yep.
So you very rarely see teams actually get to there anymore because no emphasis is on that Dragon.
Games are also a little faster, I think, as well. And this has been a bit of a slower game. We, again, talked about the action, but it's sort of push and pull for the latter 15 minutes of this game. Did have that lull after 10 minutes for about 5 minutes there as well. Pause is probably not helping either. So we do have another one, of course. Players just making sure everything's A-OK. But, yeah, HYG have just looked a little better. Team fights have been a bit crisper, movement's been a bit better, and the fact they've got 4 dragons and no teams have really been looking at Baron in this particular game just feels like they know what they want. They're happy to play this slower game because they're confident in their ability to win as a team.
And it says a lot, doesn't it, about HYG? They're confident. Very surprising to see this team come into the LPL and show such confidence. Granted, OMG, they have a lot of conviction in what they want to do. They just don't execute on it very well. They're basically, I would define them as a new side also.
Yep.
This is a very good first match for both of these teams to come up against each other and decide, well, hey, we're both considered lower tier right now. We're both new. We're both changing our rosters a little bit. It's a good gauge of, am I better than this guy? And then work my way from there up the ladder to see where I really sit at and how we can improve on doing that.
And even in this game for OMG, after the first 2 games did not go so well, game to game, and this one included, they've certainly shown improvement. So, again, a team that we are going to be monitoring, you have to think, for most of the season, if not all of it, just to see how they go. Because, like you mentioned, still very new here. And Cool's Locks, I don't know. I like the pick. I just feel like OMG aren't playing with their team comp they picked.
Well, he hasn't done anything with it.
No, apart from flash forward.
He's just
get himself killed accidentally.
Yeah. I guess if we define that as doing something, he's done something.
Technically, yes.
He's wave clearing, and
yep, that's true.
He's not being proactive. That's the difference, right? Like, so the Ezreal, if you want to compare the two, Gosu's sitting there, he's being aggressive with his positioning, he's forcing Cool to sit under his turret. And that's actually the benefit of this matchup, especially when you have the QSS. Cool has to sit there and just deal with it and try and wave clear as best he can to match, but he's never doing it in a manner that allows him to roam or alleviates any pressure whatsoever.
No, Gosu's actually looked very good, I think.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned Koreans, he's the sole Korean on the team. You know, you don't instantly get good at League of Legends by being Korean, but Gosu clearly is one of the imports that the team can have, one of 2 that they're allowed. I'm sure they'd like one of the Rogue Ones back, but they moved on to another team. But Gosu has looked very solid. Consistently hitting skill shots on Ezreal, landing very nicely against Cool, very efficient farming. Feels like, you know, very safe laner. I mean, he's playing a fairly safe champion. Not very flashy, but he's been super solid, and he's definitely adding to all these fights.
Well, Ezreal's not an easy champion. No. Let's keep that in mind. And the one thing to note is Blue Ezreal has been considered by Prey, of course, and other Koreans, saying that if you're not good at it, don't play it.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
That's how I feel about it when I play it.
Because it's all skill shot based, very low cooldown, all skill shot intensive. So you need to be able to be on point with every single point and make sure you're timing it with the frozen fist. And that's the hardest thing to do. Gosu's shown that he's very capable.
Certainly has. And I think Lissandra's been the other champion. She's sort of been the champion of the week for me in a lot of different ways. But Lissandra, even in this game, we've seen it top, we've seen it mid. We've almost always seen it with teleport. That's one of the only consistent things, apart from maybe Rod of Ages as well. But it's just so good. This champion does everything.
Yeah. And that's what separates Lissandra. And Lulu is probably the only other good example from the rest is they can top lane, they can mid lane. They have wave clear, they have crowd control. They work very good with their team. Lulu being the only difference works well with engage, whereas Lissandra is the engage tool. They both fill very, very obvious roles, but those roles are so widespread that they can be played in different positions and still do the same thing.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is with a lot of these Lissandra players has just been the split pushing. Every time I see Lissandra with teleport going to a side lane and to start mashing Q and like eating minion waves, I'm like, this is silly.
Yeah.
Like, she's already very good at everything else, but the fact that you can also be a split push, that's great. And we've seen it. 17's played a pretty different style. He's not split pushing greedily. He's grouping with his team a lot, but he's just flitting between waves, pushing them down, making sure everything's sort of pushing on their side, and then going back to his team in case they need to engage. He's playing it very supportive, actually, on the champion.
Yeah, it's definitely the way that he's playing the game. And, I mean, that's almost EDG-esque, I would have to say, the way that he's controlling the waves and then focusing on the team play.
Yep.
But whenever he gets the opportunity, I mean, Lissandra's wave clear is immaculate, so just disappears for 30-odd seconds, comes back, joins the team, says, all right, we engaging yet? No, I'm going to go to top lane this time. Clears the wave.
Yeah, we are back into the game as well. Actually, HYG started to stop messing around, I feel like. Straight onto Baron here for this one. OMG are alive and ready. They do not have the jungler, so it's 4v5. They're going to try and take this out of the pit, but Kalista has so many spears in the back of that Baron's head.
You have to watch the rend here from Kalista. The smite's already used.
Does go in for it, does get the rend down. Baron goes over to HYG, but OMG have started the fight. 17 in trouble, but he does pop his Zhonya's cool now in the mix of it as Gosu takes him out. That's a second kill down as Kalista claims the life of Hecarim. Now 5 going to be in trouble. Glacial Claw over there for the Ring of Frost and the Snare. SMLZ going to die as well. And that's an effective ace with Fishbowl coming out of the base. HYG wipe OMG.
And just like that, HYG decide, you know what, we're strong enough to pull the trigger. They do. The Lux laser was used in a position where he had no right to be in an attempt to steal the Baron. he didn't distance himself, and the immediate engage from 17 was actually the biggest determining factor in that entire fight. And it's easy done.
Yeah, now the base is going to be broken wide open. 17 down in the bottom lane now, working on that turret. Big minion wave there with the help of Baron, just munching down the waves as they come in. That's going to be 2 inhibs down, pushing super minions and the Baron in there. And they might just finish the game at this point. Nexus turrets are looking to fall. The first one's going to not last barely any time. Fishball going to get grabbed up. He'll die as well as the next kill. And that's going to be a few members back. It's only 5 to try and defend. The Nexus falls, and Hyper Youth Gaming defeat OMG in game number 1.